Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling here, and hope all is well with you guys out there. Today we're going to be talking about how to do well, how to succeed, how to win one-day tournaments. I think a lot of people out there fishes club tournaments and smaller tournaments, so I think it's going to be some really good information for you guys to help you down the road here. Before we get started here, guys, just want to remind everybody, if you haven't had a chance, please swing by and check out our Fish of the Moment lake map breakdowns. Right now we've got our spring map breakdowns up on the website. It gives you 40 GPS waypoints, tips and advice, how to get to those places, how to fish them with the right techniques. And it's just a great resource to learn more about your favorite lake. And we can also build you a personal breakdown too if you have a lake that's not on our list. So I'll include the Fish of the Moment lake map breakdown link in the description. Much appreciated. Okay guys, one of the reasons I want to do this video here is tomorrow I'm fishing the BFL one-day tournament down at Table Rock. I fished the BFLs about 30 years ago, and that's really what started my career. I qualified for the All-American my first year fishing it, I think in 1984. And after I started fishing Bassmaster in 1986, I just didn't have time to fish the BFLs. So it's been a long time, but prior to that, I fished a lot of buddy tournaments, a lot of one-day tournaments, including the BFL. So I've got quite a bit of experience fishing the one-day events. So what I wanted to do here is I want to give you guys some advice on how to approach a one-day event, because it requires a strategy that I think a lot of people are not really aware of, as far as how to maximize, your efficiency and maximize your chances to win the tournament. So there's a couple different things here you have to remember. First of all, when you're fishing a one-day tournament, it's like you have got to maximize that one day that you're out there. And a lot of people, when you're fishing for a one-day tournament, you may not have a lot of practice. I mean, most people that fish one-day tournaments, they work a job for a living. They don't have a lot of free time off. So maybe you'll get a day of practice or no practice at all. The first thing that you have to do is, you have to go into these tournaments, these one-day tournaments, with a mentality that you want to win the tournament or place extremely high, because most of the time there is basically winner take all. It's like, if you don't win the tournament, by the time you play your expenses and this and that, you're just not going to come out. It's just like donating. So you really want to try to maximize the day, especially a lot of the one-day tournaments give boats for first prize. Now, if you're fishing to qualify for a end of the year fish off, like I am with the BFL here for the regional, that may be a little bit different. But the main thing is, if you're going to come out of these one-day tournaments financially successful, you got to win the tournament. So the first thing you have to do is you have to identify what are the primary techniques, the highest percentage of winning those tournaments. Now, every lake that you fish, the body of water that you fish, you guys should be familiar with what usually it takes to win tournaments as far as different times of the year. If you're fishing down at, Sam Rayburn Lake in February, there's a good chance that tournament's going to get won on a lipless crankbait or some type of a crankbait, or maybe a swim bait or something like that. I mean, if you're fishing down at Lake Okeechobee, in the winter down there, there's a good chance it could get one flipping mats or on a chatterbait. There's some high percentage techniques, and that's what you have to focus on if you're going to do that. It's just like this tournament tomorrow. It's like, odds are this tournament's going to get won live scoping with an Alabama rig. And so a lot of the guys that probably will do well in this tournament are going to be fishing that technique. Now, it's not like a guarantee. There's always an outlier that, can come and play. But if you stay with the techniques that you feel have a good shot of winning that tournament, you're going to be way ahead of the game. But that comes with a price, because what happens is, if you fish those techniques that catch bigger fish, it's a real high risk, high reward type of a deal. Most of the time, the techniques that produce the winning bags are not necessarily the best techniques to catch the fish, to catch a lot of fish. I'll go back to the Alabama rig tomorrow at Table Rock. I mean, there may be 100 guys fishing Alabama rig all day long tomorrow, and there may be 5 guys that catch them on it. Everybody else, they're not going to do any good on it. That's sort of the way it is with that. So, try to focus on a technique that you have a lot of confidence in, that also gives you a chance to win the tournaments. And normally, every tournament, there's 2 or 3 primary techniques that are high percentage techniques. That's number one. The second thing that you have to do is you have to practice right. You have to learn how to practice right. And what you have to do in a one-day tournament is you can't burn your fish the day before the tournament starts. So make sure that if you catch a good fish, or if you start catching a few fish, you need to leave that area immediately. And you need to figure those fish out in the tournament. Don't sit there and try to see how many bites you can get or how many fish you can shake off, for your ego's sake. You can figure, it's better to be surprised and find out the day of the tournament than in practice. And another thing with that, guys, is bass will get conditioned to just seeing a bait. So let's say, for example, you pull up on a row of boat docks and you're flipping a jig around these docks and you're getting bit on every other dock. At that point, don't just stop fishing them, because if you get bit, even if you got your hooks cut off, and a fish picks up that jig or whatever it is and swims out with it, and you have to shake it off, you're conditioning that fish to that jig even though you're not hooking it. And even if you shake a fish off, there's a good chance that fish is not going to bite the very next day of your tournament because you spooked it. And it's the same way even if you're not getting bit. You don't want the fish to get spooked by trolling motor noise, electronic noise, boat pressure, your presence of being there, lures in the water. So my advice is, if you catch a good fish, pull up that trolling motor and leave and analyze the area. Spend the rest of your time sort of scouting the area and sort of fish it mentally. You don't have to, let's say, for example, you're fishing down a bank and there's 30 lay down trees in front of you, and the first tree that you come to, you catch a 5-pounder on a spinnerbait. Pull that trolling motor up. You don't need to fish the other 30 trees down there. You'll hit them tomorrow in the tournament. And that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is they burn their fish the day before the tournament. That's a big element there. So those are the two main things, guys, is you have to fish the high percentage techniques that's going to win, and you have to practice right and not beat your fish up. And another thing with that is you have got to stay with the techniques that are going to position you where you need to be, even if you're not getting bit. So let's say, for example, you're fishing a deep diving crankbait, on ledges, and you've got two good fish. Say you got two 4-pounders in the live well at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you go through a dry spell and you haven't had a bite for 2 hours or so, and it's real tempting to put that crankbait down that will catch big ones, and you can go over to this bridge pier and catch a limit on a shaky head or something over there. You got to resist that urge to fill out your limit. You've got to stay with those techniques that will produce the good fish. Now, again, that's a gamble, but it's a gamble that you have to be willing to take if you want to win these tournaments. Again, if you're fishing for points, that's a different thing. But ultimately, guys, I don't know anyone out there that fishes for points that in the long term does that well. I mean, yeah, if you have a end of the year fish off that you really want to focus on making, like this year, I really want to make the Toyota Series Championship because it's back at Table Rock this fall. So I'm gonna fish a little bit different than what I'm advising you here. But for the most part, if you're fishing one-day tournaments, it's a top-heavy payout, and you sort of have to approach it differently. So anyway, that's just sort of some of the things that's been successful for me. I've had a chance to, won a BFL tournament, qualified for the regionals every year that I fished them, used to win a lot of buddy tournaments back when I fished buddy tournaments. So that's the approach that's worked for me pretty good. So hope it works for you, and we'll see you guys later. See you.